One such superwoman is Emma Coath. Emma is Managing Director, Rocket Seeder, an Australian accelerator supporting startups and scale-ups. Emma is an innovative management professional, a versatile strategic thinker with capability to understand key drivers, connect people, and challenge the conventional thinking. She's been contributing across South and Southeast Asia in empowering startups in general and women-driven startup in particular. Floor is yours, Emma. I don't want to be between you and the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. Working properly. Is that right, Deepak?
Actually, we lost you for a second, Emma. Can you just
lost me? Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm just in a hotel in Queensland, so I'm not sure about the internet here, but let's keep going regardless. Yes, so normally I'm based in Melbourne, Australia, but up sort of further north in Australia. As you know, it's a big country like India. So just on holidays, actually, it's school holidays here. So thank you for having me, Deepak. It's a pleasure to be especially the first speaker, but also to be speaking. As you said, Deepak, so I'm the Managing Director of Rocket Seeder in Australia, which is a not-for-profit organisation, and we support early stage startups in the food and agriculture sector. So we started in 2017 and we run cohorts and challenges focused on particular issues and cohorts programs in particular regions. And now because of COVID, we've found that we can run programs successfully online, like lots of other people have found. And yes, so we're planning to do more of that. So focusing on different things, including a national program for women, so females in ag tech specifically. So we're working on putting that together at the moment. And also I co-founded Grow, which is in Singapore, which is an agri-food tech accelerator, largely backed by the Singapore government. And it's in partnership with AgFunder, which is based in the US. And Vandana will speak a little bit about that in the next presentation. But I'm going to focus on females in agriculture in Australia with my presentation. So I'll just go ahead with that now. Can you see that?
Yes.
Awesome. So I'll start with the negative and then I'll end up with the positive, I promise. But this is probably not unlike other countries in the world. I think we all sort of face similar issues that in terms of women in agriculture, we have a long way to go. So here are some statistics. And I didn't know till a couple of years ago that women were actually not recognised as farmers until 1994. So it's not really that long ago. So, I mean, really, we've obviously had women, female farmers in Australia since, well, for millions of years, because our Indigenous female farmers have been around for a long, long time. So anyway, we've moved on from that. And but also the other statistics aren't good in terms of, in terms of agricultural commodity councils. Most of them are still men. Here, Visible Farmer reports 91% men, 9% women. Rural representative bodies, 87% are still men, 13% women. Publicly listed agricultural companies, similar, 93% men, 7% women, and it sort of fluctuates a little tiny bit up and down. And only 2.3% of CEOs in Australian agribusinesses are females. compared with an average of 17% across other industries. So it's not high in other industries, but it's really, really low in agribusiness, in agriculture. So yes, we definitely have a long way to go. This is my favourite female farmer, Sally Jones from Gippsland, Jersey, down where I live in Victoria. So she's a couple of hours out of Melbourne, in a region called Gippsland, hence the name of her business that she co-founded with a friend, a male friend. I'm talking about females here, but an awesome male friend. So Gippsland, Jersey. So Gippsland, Jersey is, as you can see from the Jersey cows in the picture, it is a dairy business. It's a dairy brand. They've just put on their 4th farmer supplier. And so they're not actually farming themselves as such. They have a processing facility. They started about the same time we did, actually, about 4 years ago. And unfortunately, the reason why they started was because Sally grew up in a dairy farm in East Gippsland, and so an organic dairy farm, actually. She didn't actually go to school until she was in year 6, so nearly high school. And then she was, of course, the school captain when she got to the end of her high schooling years. She's an awesome person, but unfortunately we had some difficult times in our dairy sector, I guess about 5 years ago, particularly around pricing and so forth. So her father unfortunately took his own life. So that's why Steve, her co-founder, approached her and said, let's create a legacy for your father and let's start Gippsland, Jersey, which they did. And what I think is awesome about them is that they have 3 pillars that they stick to and live by. As I said on the slide, it's their why, what, you know, that they focus on, they think is in the back of their mind every day, everything they do. So the first pillar is that farmers must be paid a fair price. The second is that they want to smash the stigma of mental health and suicide prevention in rural areas. So this is probably ringing a lot of bells, particularly Deepak in India. And the third is kindness, as Sally says, because it's the best human attribute someone can have. In fact, Sally's a very kind person, as is Steve, and so they have their ear to the ground. If anyone, any farmer in particular, doesn't have to be just a dairy farmer, is in need of anything, a couple of months ago it was a bed, then they do what they can to, well, in this case, Sally arranged for a bed to be delivered the day after a farmer told her that he didn't have a bed to sleep in, and his wife had left him and so forth. So his bed turns up the next day. And that's just the type of thing that they do, and their business is they live by these 3 pillars, which is awesome. So you sort of think a dairy brand, milk, value-added products, you sort of don't naturally think of, you know, mental health and kindness. So I think that's really cool. And then, so the last thing I wanted to talk about was ag tech. I don't actually have a slide for this. I've just got my contact details here. Tech founders, so not necessarily that can come from anywhere, they don't have to come from the farm. And I just might turn that off, stop sharing because of the internet. And so they could, you know, ideally it would be great to have a farmer and a researcher, and anyway, so we will support 10 teams per program, and so it will kick off next year. So we're just looking for partners and sponsors for that program. But the idea is that there are a lot of, well, there's I won't say a lot, there's a handful of really successful female ag tech founders in Australia, and they've successfully scaled their businesses, or most of them, outside of Australia, which is coming through the pipeline, and we really, really need to see more. At least 50% of ag tech founders would be awesome. And really, the only way to do that is support them from the early stages, like what Rocket Seeder does. That's what we specialise in, and introduce them to all the contacts that they need to, I guess, kick off. If they don't have a co-founder, find a co-founder, develop their narrative and their business model, and we can introduce them to mentors. We've got some awesome mentors, including maybe some male mentors as well. But lots of really awesome, successful female mentors. Females are lining up to be and I know also Grow in Singapore is very passionate about supporting females in their cohorts. That's a really important goal for them. And also our team is about, actually, maybe we have 2 females in the team now, which is good. So it's not quite half, but everybody in the team loves to work with females founders, as they do with male founders. But of course, we know any workplace situation is much better if we have diversity, and it's good to start with gender diversity if it's not if it's not at least 50-50. So that's Deepak, something that we're focusing on in the next couple of years.
That's awesome, Emma. It is a pleasure to know that somebody is really ticking the right boxes, because actually the whole genesis of Women in Agriculture Web Summit, it came because we had a web summit on blockchain in agriculture just a couple of weeks back. And the feedback I got from the audience and my speaker was that I'm gender biased, because unfortunately we had out of 12, 11 speakers who were male and 1 speaker who was female. And that made me think, because generally you don't proactively think on all those lines in your busy schedule in your life. You keep on moving forward. And then I asked my team that actually let's all look at our LinkedIn profiles, check our connects, and see that how many female are there in agriculture. And you'll be shocked to know that actually around 8 to 12% was the outcome. So some of them, they had 12% of their agriculture or related connect being female, and some as low as 8%. And that made us think that we have to proactively start thinking and promoting this whole concept. So first thing was that to have a panel discussion where all the females sit together and they discuss the women empowerment. And I thought that it is too old-fashioned for us to do that. Maybe there are United Nations and ASEAN Secretariats and African Union or World Economic Forum who should be doing that. We should be just trying to bring awesome change makers like you who speak what they are doing, speak their own story, and that would motivate. So that brings me to the first question in our discussion. When we see that diversity within our organization, how important do you see it to be in a founding team? Because generally what happens is that we end up with the founding teams which are not very proactive in thinking on those lines, right? They just speak on their convenience, and once this company start growing, right, they have unidirectional thought process. How important do you see the diversity, with the diversity in the age, diversity in the race, and very importantly, diversity in the gender? So how important, according to you? You have seen so many startups.
Yeah, I mean, if you've only got 2 or 3 founders, I guess it's hard to, cover all bases, if you like. So I think the gender, side or goal is probably the most important in my mind, just to get that diversity of thinking, and not to say that all females think the same and all males think the same. So, you could end up with two male thinking founders, but one's male and female. But, ideally, I think, most people recognise that, and I'm really delighted to see, to hear about founding teams in Australia now seeking out female founders, or even employees. So if they can't sort of find any female founders, which is difficult in ag tech, co-founders I should say, and I think it's been happening for a little bit longer. I've seen in Singapore this has been happening for probably a couple of years now. I can't speak so much for other sort of countries or continents necessarily in ag tech, but that's what I've seen, and I guess that's why it's good timing, I think, to run a program talking about female ag tech founders or supporting them, because there are actually male founders out there looking for female co-founders at the moment. And so I think, that's really important. And I guess, age and ethnicity, it's hard to, I guess, cover all those bases. As I said, it's not like you want 5 different founders. It's probably too big a founding team. Not, I know that there are some out there, but 2 or 3 is a good number, I think. 4 is probably getting a little bit big from what I've seen. So yeah, you can probably cover a few, diversity elements there. But yeah, I'd like to see, females at that, top of mind, if you like. And I think that's happening.
Right. So that gives me a little bit of follow-up question. I understand, you cannot have 7 or 10 or 15 founders, right, yeah, to cover all the bases. How about the board of advisor or the mentorship team, where you proactively look for okay, I want to have a female mentor, or I want to have a female member of board of advisor. Do you think that should be something which should be promoted strongly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, board of advisors, sort of leads to, more formal boards. And of course, board diversity is an issue, and there you can have more than 2 or 3 board members. So there's more scope to be more diverse on a board and board of advisors. I think probably with board of advisors, they're more looking for different types of experience and expertise for that. But in doing so, they should definitely be, and they are looking for, females within that as well as experience with, in a startup or scaling a startup or in international markets or something like that. But more and more, that's what we have to do, is give people more choice in terms of, females with experience in those areas. So then they'll be well sought out, I would imagine. And they are already, but they're very, very busy. The female ag tech founders in Australia, I know that for sure. It's because every conference you go to, it's the same small handful of women on panels and speaking and so forth. So we just need to I guess help them so they can get on with some work, and so there's more choice for people to select female founders for conferences and so forth.
Right. Now that brings me to a little bit of, because of your experience, when we talk about the product development, right, especially when we talk about EdTech, the user experience and when you give a product in hand of a farmer, whether it is a precision agriculture product or it is a satellite-based advisory product, right? And generally the UX are designed, right, with predominantly mindset that actually it would be used by male farmers. And I've worked across Southeast Asia, and I found that how a woman approach to an application on your mobile phone and how a male approach is very, very different. And we have seen that in a lot of countries, you're having a substantial high number, or I'll say that percentage of producers and farmers to be women. Have you seen that even when we talk about the technology, there is a bias towards male?
Sorry, Deepak, my internet just went
Yeah,
out.
I understand. I'll
But
repeat. I'll repeat.
I think I know
Yeah.
what you're sort of talking about, so I'll try and sort of, comment or answer that question. And it's a little bit like in, I guess, traditional agriculture or even ag tech. I just judged the UN Food Systems Summit SME competition. I was one of the judges, and I noticed that there are a lot of, in particular, as in India, or Deepak?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, good. And I just noticed that there were startups, and they may have had 3 males co-founders, but then their 100% focus was on female farmers, and I just thought that's really weird. And of course, I made a comment on that, but it was just such a shame that they couldn't find a female co-founder when their market was 100% females. And I guess I probably didn't answer your question properly because you're talking more about tech, but it's about when your customers are females, you sort of need female input somehow, preferably experience, preferably. So, yeah.
And I'm actually you have been working with a lot of tech-based startups. So not focused on women, but do you see that the bias in AI for a different sort of farmers is also another issue? Because we see a lot of talk about artificial intelligence being used in agriculture, and I'm already seeing bias too much on yields, right? While we are seeing the world need more of sustainability, world need more of regenerative farming, world need more of ensuring that we are getting the right sort of food rather than just the calories. Do you see that already the AI bias can be another big issue for the agriculture going forward?
What's that? The AI bias? Is that
Yeah,
what you said?
yeah, that artificial intelligence bias towards more of just generating more yields, right? The fascination towards yields and not on the other holistic ideas about agriculture. Do you see that can create a challenge in future?
Oh, look, yeah, probably not. Like in ag tech, I see, well, so far, maybe we're seeing focus more on AI specifically at the moment, but ag tech startups generally have a number of technologies that they focus on. So not just AI. I don't know if I've answered your question properly because I missed some of the words. But yeah, so but maybe you see that more from your end, but not really so much from our end. And because I think there's probably more startups in ag tech in Australia, and we're not really talking about women anymore, but they do come from a farming background, but I see that sort of changing with, and certainly farmers see that changing as well, in being contacted by people that don't have farming backgrounds, and that's a real issue for farmers in Australia at the moment, and the whole issue of who owns their data and who has access to their data and everything. Yeah.
No, actually, to be very frank, I love a lot of things what I see in the ecosystem in Australia. I had opportunity of interacting with quite a few startups. There was a program with one of the incubators in India, a large incubators in India, and I think with Government of Victoria. And I had an interaction. And what I love was that actually a lot of tech startups are coming from those who have been in the farming, or those family have been in farming. Unlike in whether we talk about Singapore definitely, or Indonesia, or even in India, we have seen that not many startups are from that background. They are more of techies and believing that something wrong is happening in agriculture. Let's try to intervene. And I happen to be one of them. I had no clue of farming till I think 5.5 years back. But then actually, I got my hands in soil. People say getting hand dirty. I said no, getting hands in soil, because soil is not dirty. Now that brings us to the last question. What would be your message to a lot of young women who would be watching us, right? And who see agriculture as one of an option and might be sitting on the fence, right? So how you get them on this side of the fence, and those like young or I'll say even old male folks who believe that they should be supporting women but are not able to find how to do that. What would be your advice to these two classes?
Yeah, okay. So for young girls, I just say, and probably older girls too, same principle applies, is reach out. And I mean, it's really not that difficult to find out who is working in ag tech at the moment in a particular country. Females, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, as you are, I think, Deepak. Well, you're more Facebook, aren't you? Or just as much. But social media in general, and you can certainly, or you can contact one person, which will lead to another. It's sort of basic networking principles. But just reach out, and if you don't get any response, try again or try someone else. Be persistent, because that's what we do with our founders. We talk to as many people as you can at that early stage when you're in that exploratory stage. You don't have to listen to everyone or agree with everyone, but the more people you talk to, the better. And they, particularly young girls, they may be very surprised that successful ag tech founders, female, will love the fact that they're contacting them and they're interested in getting into the sector. So they will respond to them and they will be supportive of them. There's not really a lot of programs around. There are a lot of sort of, entrepreneurship student sort of challenges, but no programs as such. So that's something that I would like to see in the future. I know there's certainly a demand for that in Australia, and I bet there would be in India as well. And that's one way to encourage particularly STEM students or females that have grown up on farms to get involved in ag tech. They don't all have to, end up female ag tech founders. They can, just as long as they're anyone, anywhere in the ecosystem, as, supporting person. They may end up in government, they may end up in all sorts of places. So the more and earlier we get them involved in understanding ag tech and the whole sector, which is, relatively new, especially in Australia, then the more likely that they will get involved. And from the other question that you had was around the males understanding how to get or supporting females in ag tech. I guess, it depends what your role is. But if you have an area of expertise or whatever, if you're in the sector, you can be a mentor or just, put yourself out there as a mentor. Get involved in, accelerator programs like Grow and Rocket Seeder and all of the other accelerator programs around the world. There's a lot of programs at the moment. So offer yourself as a mentor, watch, they're all online at the moment, the pitch events, and then reach out to any particular founder to offer your expertise. They don't have to say yes, but you can only make the offer, and just be supportive, just be there. There's all sorts of different ways that you can do it. I know a lot of men with daughters in particular are very, and they're involved in the agriculture sector. They're very, they seem to be more keen to get females involved in ag tech because they want their daughters to have that opportunity and they want the path to be, a bit smoothed out, and they want to feel that they've had a role in that, I guess, which is really nice. I don't have any daughters interested in agriculture. I'm certainly there to provide some advice as to how to get into that, if there are scholarships and so forth. Yeah.
Perfect. Very well articulated, Emma. I got the as a gist of that. All the male, please be open to say, how can I help? Thank you. Thanks a lot. It was a wonderful session having discussion with you, Emma. And we already have our next speaker, and we are having Vanna. So thanks, Emma. It was pleasure discussing with you. And
Thanks.
thanks a lot for getting the schedule or time for us and have this interaction. Really appreciate.
Awesome. I look forward to hearing the rest of the ladies.
Thanks you.
Thanks, Deepak.